So today we're going to talk about text structure, but specifically we're going to refer to compare and contrast. This is a very common type of writing, and you often have to use this type of structure to help you to determine similarities and differences between two items. Sometimes it can be more than that, depending on what you're trying to organize. So with compare and contrast, we know that the text talks about similarities and differences between people, places, and things. We determine things that are the same and different about the objects. We can also determine what they both have or what neither of them have. And also we determine what things we can contrast about the two items, meaning how they are different. Using a visual is very helpful when trying to determine characteristics of two different items. Often, too, the language in whatever the writing feature is will have some clues to help you to determine if it is in fact a compare and contrast piece. So on this slide you see that there are three different Venn diagrams. Remember I talked about those pieces of vocabulary or language that would help us to determine if it is a compare and contrast piece. Obviously, this writer was trying to compare Jack and Annie in the first example. We know that there's going to be some things that Jack personally has for characteristics and then some things that Annie would have. But we also know that perhaps they both share some common characteristics. In that example, they both are curious and they both like to learn new things. But Jack is different than Annie in some ways. Jack is very cautious and he likes to read books to learn. Some things Annie is different from Jack is she likes pretend and she's very adventurous. Comparing the two is made easier by putting it into a Venn diagram. The second example that's given is about settings. Again, there are some things that in the Cretaceous period, which was a large period of time in our history, the dinosaurs did exist. Also, there were no humans during this time. Now, there are no dinosaurs. And we know that there are humans. Well, humans are everywhere now. What do they both share? Trees were present. Events, Jack and Annie. If you look at the two on the bottom, they're two within one Venn diagram. But if you look at the bottom example of events, you can see that they have Jack and Annie. Jack, for the events in the story that they had used, would be described as he is the one who finds a gold medallion. Annie finds a tree house. Now in the middle we see something that they both have in common, but this comes from the events from a book. So it doesn't have to be exactly about just characteristics that they have. It can be about characters, settings, or even events from a story. But we're also going to look for that powerful language to help us determine if it's compare and contrast. Comparing words, if they both have something, perhaps they're similar or the same. Also, or as well as, are all clue words to help you know that they are comparing two similar objects. Contrasting words, if you see however, in contrast, differ, different, while, whereas. On the other hand, but, yet, though, and although, those would all indicate that you are contrasting them. You're telling how two items, or perhaps more, are different from one another. So this structure can really be helpful when determining the characteristics of things over a variety of media. Now, if we are going to compare, meaning looking for things that they have in common, then we might use a T-chart. And if you look at the example on the left-hand side of this anchor chart, this person really did a great job in creating full examples of how they might use it. But we also know that in a T-chart, we could compare, or contrast, we could contrast how they're different. Also, a table. Think about if we were to create a table that had your favorite food or snack or drink. Some things we may find to be similar, but some things we may find to be different. In fiction, when you're reading a book, we can analyze characters, point of view, setting, theme, and even the genre. But in this, we are going to find things that they have in common or things that they have that are different from each other, which would be their differences. Take a moment to look over the chart and see if something pops out for you. So again, we're going to look for that key language. When we can compare and contrast, the author finds things that are alike and different in people, places, or things they are writing about. Here's a small list that includes some of the words we had shared before, but includes a few more that were different. You can always use a Venn diagram to help organize your thoughts. Ask the question, what is being compared? How are they similar? And how are they different? Read the following passage about crocodiles and alligators. As you read, be ready to discuss how crocodiles and alligators are similar and different, and think about things that perhaps they have in common. After reading the passage, can you fill in the information about crocodiles and alligators? Are there things that you found that crocodiles may have, but alligators do not? Are there things that they both have in common? Take a moment to read through the Venn diagram and gather your thoughts. This may look a little different from the circle diagram, but it still holds the same structure to allow for the characteristics of just crocodiles, of just alligators, and then things they both have in common. You did it! When diagramming the information, we can see that crocodiles have a pointed and V-shaped snouts. When a crocodile closes its mouth, some of its teeth will show. Alligators have a U-shaped mouth or snout. When an alligator closes its mouth, its teeth are hidden. But they both have some characteristics that are the same. For instance, they both are in the same family of crocodilians. They're large, four-legged reptiles that live primarily in warm tropical swamps and rivers. They also both have excellent hearing and smell. Next, you're going to read a passage about frogs and toads. Now, if I was the author of this piece, I would have to gather my thoughts clearly so that I can convey them to the reader and not have a jumbled mess. So read the passage carefully and be ready to gather your thoughts to diagram the information of things that are just for the toad, for the frog, and what they have in common. So after reading, were you able to come up with information that you can fill in the diagram below? I hope so. Frogs and toads are very interesting. And there are some things that a frog, a characteristic it may have, and a toad may share. But there's some things that are definitely different about the two. What do you think? If you were able to think through and discover that frogs live on land and water, they have moist and smooth skin, and they have webbed feet. But we also learned about toads. Toads mostly live on land. Their skin is very dry and very bumpy. They have separated toes. They also have poison glands to help defend them from predators. But there are some things that they have in common. They both look alike. It really takes someone who has a keen eye to realize the difference. They're both cold-blooded. They both begin life in water, and they both have watertight skin. For the compare and contrast overview, I would like for you to think about using diagrams to help you organize your information. They can be very helpful. Also, compare and contrast has very specific language to help you identify similarities and differences of the topic. We would look for those key words to help indicate if it is comparing or sharing how they are similar. And it can be used to compare many topics at the same time while reading material or listening to information. Below you see the traditional Venn diagram that we often use, and then you also see a 3 Venn diagram part. That would be if I was going to add another animal or object to my comparison. Again, they have places that they only share for themselves, and then they have places that there's things in common where the circles overlap. I hope you found this helpful. Thanks for following directions and reading through the passages with me. Thank you.